Hello everyone, I'm Jack, and this is my reflection of Black is the Body, Chapter 5. This is Pebble. I'm sorry about the noise in the background, I'll try and talk loud so y'all can't hear it. So the first part of it starts with Black history of Chapter 5. It starts out with Emily talking to her kids. They have a debate whether it's black or brown. They were talking to each other, and Julia claimed to be brown, and she was like, no, it's black, and they kind of got it mixed up and confused a little bit. And Emily starts to realize that her children have gotten wise to the absurd and illogical nature of American racial identity, and it kind of like breaks her heart a little bit. Like it makes her sad, and that's kind of a theme throughout this part of the chapter. Emily then describes how race was not construction theory or outdated consequences of living history, but an active living foundation. She talks about the time she visited John's extended family, and she tells a story about Black History Month to them, and it kind of like unsettles their family. Like you can see they're clearly like uncomfortable because of the story, and she understands why. She talks about how, after that, she talks about her daughter Isabella, how she identifies as American by law, but truly identifies as African, even though she's adopted. Like, she tells people that she's African. Like, she tells her this, like, later on in the chapter. She then talks about her daughter's connection to her, and she's saying that the connection to Africa doesn't have to be fashioned or dramatized or recuperated or invented. It's a concrete reality to which many African Americans aspire. And I thought that was a really effective part of the chapter. That was a really good way to end off the chapter. That really kind of drives the point home. I think that was really good, a really good way to like complete the chapter. And I think it connects back to what we were saying in class with the Freitag's rising and falling action. Like I think that was like the climax of the whole chapter. Like even though it was the very end, like I think that was a really cool part. The next one is Becoming American. She talks about her trip to Anita in Trinidad and how she uses the word biracial around here, and it really kind of bothers Anita. And she said the conversation kind of like ended very abruptly, and they didn't really talk much after that. This chapter was kind of short, so after that she talks about her father and how opposed to her, he really like embraced his blackness, and like he really understood. He told her that blackness, or she told the story that blackness for him was here and Americanness was there, and that his he kind of got like agitated sometimes at his kids because they would mispronounce the word like advertisement just because their accent was wrong, and it kind of made him upset sometimes. So you can really see the difference between the character of Emily and her father in this chapter. The next chapter is Valentine. Emily introduces Gilbert, a main character who falls in love with Isabella when she's a little kid, and talks about how when Isabella couldn't go to Gilbert's birthday, Gilbert's mom called. She called Emily and was like, Gilbert's beside himself, like this is unbelievable, like my son is just in tears. And Emily was very moved by this, and she goes to tell Isabella, and she kind of just like, she shrugs, like she can tell, she's like, she can tell that the fear of racial differences come between Gilbert and Isabella, and the teachers organize to sit down, they work it out, and eventually they all kind of go on their way, and they make it up as friends. And Emily then talks about her friend's grandfather, an immigrant from the Netherlands. She touches briefly on that, and the next chapter is called A Regrettable Choice. The choice Emily's describing is a choice to, oh, sorry, she stepped on the cord. The choice to introduce her daughters to the N-word. And she talked about the very first time that her daughters heard the N-word. It was when they were in a class with Julia, and when Julia and Isabella were in a class with her, and she was teaching. And they eventually asked, they were like, what is that? And they didn't understand what it was, because it was the black book that she was talking about that had the N-word written right on it. And she finally caves in and tells them a week later that it was Julia stating that she kind of states to them, and they were like, oh, that's kind of rude, like, that's interesting, and she agrees with them. She's like, yeah, that is rude, and she thinks it's a good sign, because she knows her children are kind of on the same path, and kind of understand the bias that's being put in place, they understand what's going on. And she finally tells them what the N-word is, and then a week later, Julia states that a white neighbor told her that someone could get in trouble for using, I think she said the M-word, and then, she kind of, like, held up a peace sign, like, saying, like, so she can tell that even though she is barely able to, like, not speak correctly, but, like, she can't speak correctly, she still understands the concept of the N-word, and it bothers Emily in this chapter. The last one is B-words. This one's also a little short. It introduces Donna, a neighborhood friend, and it tells a story about how Emily's kids and Donna all kind of get along as neighborhood friends, and they just have a beautiful friendship, and she's moved because she said she could never imagine a world when she was a kid where she could play with someone or just like hang out with someone in their family of the opposite race. And she talks about her time in Nashville, and she talks about how she saw a bumper sticker. I think the thing she said that made it notable was the sticker that said, "Rednecks for Obama, working for the man who'll do more for the working man." And she said that she never viewed like Tennessee or Nashville the same again. She said that was kind of like how she was going to view Tennessee for the rest of her life. And then the last part, she talks to Julia again. It's basically the same thing as the very beginning. It ties back to the beginning really well. Tells her that she is both black and brown for the first time, and it kind of changes things for Julia and Emily. Okay, so my favorite chapter was probably Regrettable Choice because it was just a really it was a really heavy chapter, but I think Emily worded all the things very well. I think she really told the story about she really told the story in a way where I could almost like hear her daughters like talking. You know what I mean? Like it was very illustrative, and I thought it was really well done. And this story is effective. This chapter is effective entirely because it uses new craft elements, uses a lot of cool things, and it gives a real world example that happened to Emily of something that she discusses most in the book with Gilbert. She's talking about again just they. Sorry, I just completely lost my place. But she talks about Gilbert, and she talks about how she can see that disconnect, and it's really just effective because it drives home the point that Emily says, like, I know that blackness in America is like going to be a thing for my daughters, but like there are so many little things that I didn't realize were going to be like part of this, and she's really getting just a look at the full scope of what's going to come with raising raising daughters who are both black and brown. So she kind of it really is effective, and it really drives home like a lot of her points, and it just really was. It was a heavy piece. There was a lot of gravity to that last part, and I thought it was really smart and really well written. Honestly, that chapter was really nice. By Pebble.